Okay, next up is our lesson on melody. Let's start out by defining a melody. A melody is a series of notes that move along in time, one after another. Melody can take many different shapes. For example, it can be a tune, such as in pop music, a theme, which is a melody that develops over the course of a work, such as in symphonic music, a motive, which can be as small as 2 notes and can be joined together to make phrases, a long melodic line, or a bass line. It's helpful to think of melody as the singing part of music. Let's look at some tips for writing good melodies. When writing a melody, it's important to be aware of the chords that are going on underneath. Rather than just rolling the dice and hoping you come up with something that sounds good, this will give you a solid place to start out. One way of getting the ball rolling is to have your melody use the root or third of each chord as the chord progression is moving along. For example, if we're on the A minor chord, you might start your melody on the note A. This helps to establish the key that you're in and solidifies the chord progression. What I was doing there was, as I changed chords, I played the root of the chord followed by the third of the chord. By doing that, I was playing only notes that came from whatever chord was playing at the time. Those notes are called chord tones. Now we can start adding some flavor by using notes in our melody that are not in the chord we are playing. When doing this, it's helpful to be conscious of a couple of things. First, try and keep your melody moving in steps. For example, what I was doing there was I was still using the root or third of each chord in my melody as the chord progression changed, but I moved the melody through some notes that weren't in the chords. Those notes are called non-chord tones. Also, I was moving my melody mostly in steps, which gives the melody a nice shape. Another useful tip is to sing your melody out loud as you're working on it. This will help make your melody more musical. If you have a cello playing your melody, for example, the cellist doesn't need to take breaths in the same way that a woodwind player does. But nevertheless, giving your melody breath helps to give it shape and phrasing. Another tip for giving your melody shape is to use repetition. The first time through your chord progression, you state your melody. Then the second time you play through the chord progression, you repeat the melody, but with a small variation. Repeating the phrases helps the melody stick in the mind of the listener. For example, lastly, try moving your melody up an octave as your song progresses. This is a simple trick, but it helps to add variety and give the song a lift as it's building up. So those are a few tips for building a melody on top of your chord progression. And you can hear that a song structure is already starting to take shape.